What up, nation? Welcome to another edition of the Wise Take MLB DFS Wise stream. CK013 here. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. And I, of course, am from the Wise Take Nation, which you can find on all the social media platforms listed above or directly at wisetake.com. Wisetake.com. Book your ticket to Screenshot City. Joined once again by the GOAT, the true OG, none other than Paulie D. You can find him on Twitter at Paulie with 8 Ds. Paulie, what's happening?
What's happening, baby? We doing the dirty, you know?
All day. That's what we do. That's what the D in Paulie D stands for, dirties. And his Twitter, 8 dirties. You know what I'm saying?
Eight dirty. I did dirty 8 times.
I'm curious of how many of our members, because I mean, I'm sure you do it, and I do it from time to time. But how many members, like if they're ever in a situation where they're spelling something phonetically over the phone, and they're, you know, people use like A for alpha, E for echo, all that. How many people say D for dirty? That's what I want to know. I want to know how many other people besides me and you say D for dirty. Because if you're not doing it, you need to do it. Just that clear.
That's funny.
Anyway, we got a weird slate. Yesterday, I really liked the slate, but the slate didn't like me back. Didn't do as well as I'd hoped. The Giants went off. I had some Giants that didn't have the right combinations. But today's slate, I'm kind of indifferent on. I'm like, I don't really hate it. I don't really love it. Maybe that's a good thing, though, because yesterday I loved it, didn't love me back. Maybe today I'll play a little hard to get, not really into you, and maybe it comes after me hard. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, similar. I mean, I actually had one team get deep, but it wasn't a Giant stack. I had the Indians, you know, against the artist formerly known as the Dark Knight. Yeah. And, you know, I was happy to get my little mid-cash, almost all my money back. But, yeah, you know, I like the slate. It didn't love me back the way I wanted it to. And I don't really like this slate, but I mean, I got ideas. I don't feel as confident about them as I did yesterday. And the thing I was the most confident about yesterday didn't go very well. The fucking Astros. I guess without they ain't gonna do the dirt.
Yeah, without cheating, they just suck. Shout out to my brother Brian, who's been saying that for weeks now. Every time we talk about the Astros, he's telling me, he was like, but they're not cheating. They suck now. It's just like, you know. But anyway. We'll go ahead and get right into it, Paul. Let's talk about the pitching. We got Max Scherzer headlining the spend-ups. However, that game is the highest risk factor, according to Kevin Roth. He thinks the game should start fine, but there's some late inning trouble, so there's a possibility the game does not finish because there are a line of storms that are coming later on. But it looks like it should be clear to start. Holla at your boy when you see me in the screens.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I can always get a taste of Max Scherzer. I'm building my 3 lineups again, and I don't plan on using him that much. A lot of the bats that I like are expensive. You get the weather concern. Walker Buehler has the number 1 hitting umpire in the game going against him. First game back from a short injury stint. You know, the Dodgers are super cautious with their pitchers. Not very interested there. Dinelson Lamet is the first expensive pitcher that I've got any real interest in. I did not check the stats, so this could be wrong, but I feel like the Angels have been striking out a lot more this year. Maybe you can verify that for me. And Dinelson Lamet has freakishly good strikeout stuff. I think the most runs he's given up this year has been 3. Good Clark, somewhat, you know, it's definitely not super hitter friendly. You know what I mean? There's different theories on what this park is at this point. He's the spend up that I like the most. Not truly interested in Zach Wheeler, but I did like what you said about him on his last start. It does seem like progression is like due. Washington just doesn't strike out all that much. I'm just a little hesitant there. That's it. Christian Javier against Texas. If he was cheaper, I'd be like much more interested, but I think he's viable, you know, for the spend ups, but Dinelson Lamet's the only one I think I'm really going to come up here for.
Yeah, I'll make sure to have some Scherzer. I don't like picking on certain teams that don't strike out a lot. Philly's one of those teams, but Max Scherzer's an exceptional pitcher, an exception to the rule. Just filthy, nasty, dirty. So I'll have some exposure to Scherzer, but I agree that a lot of the bats I like are kind of expensive, and I do like a couple of the mid-tier plays. And Scherzer should be pretty popular. Maybe the weather lowers his ownership a little bit, but we're assuming that he's going to be popular. Walker Buehler, I think, is an interesting pivot from a price perspective. He's only $200 less than Scherzer on DraftKings. The umpire news definitely sucks, and I think I'll lower a little bit off him. He's coming off the best start of his season. He looked horrible. Finally had an awesome start, but then he had a finger blister, so he ended up missing. Those things can obviously be tricky. I did write him up in the article, and it simply said he's extremely risky, but he's got a massive ceiling, so take it for what it is. Lamet's interesting. I didn't pull the trigger on him. The Angels haven't been striking out a ton. It wasn't because of Lamet. Lamet's fine. It's just if I was going to spend up, I was going to find a way to get the Scherzer for the safety. And I like the mid-tier and below. But I do think Lamet's got a pretty good opportunity to do well. The Angels, if you look at FanGraphs, they don't rank terribly against strikeouts. They're like near the bottom. But if you look at individually, depending on the lineups we get, they can go very strikeout heavy depending on what lineup they give us. So we're still waiting for a lineup from them, and like they're one of the teams that it really does matter what lineup they put out. They have a couple guys that have really slow strikeout rates, and they have some other guys, some younger guys that strike out a ton. So I do think Lamet's stuff is just nasty. Tournament only, I think you just go to Scherzer and cash, assuming that we have enough weather. As long as you expect him to get the 5 or 6 innings in, that's all you really need for Scherzer to give you the cash value. But yeah, I think Lamet's interesting. Don't have a ton of interest in the spend ups. Zach Gallen did well against the Dodgers. The Dodgers are like number 1 against righties, so I'm not going to expect Lightning to strike twice there. And so it's really Scherzer. I'm okay with working in some Lamet. I'll add him in just because Paulie likes him. I'll add him in the pool. And a little sprinkle of Buehler, but I'm nervous, and I prefer the mid-tier and below. Talk to me about the mid-tier.
All right. Yeah, so I do like Spencer Turnbull as a talent. 8-7 feels a little rough for him. But, he's had like 4 or 5 games getting into the 20s. You know what I mean? I don't expect him to be like, it's not like likely that he gets a win on top of all that. But it's possible. They won last night. Detroit has been putting up runs of late. I think Kyle Hendricks is sort of viable. I do like Adrian Hauser today against Detroit. I just think that he's a better pitcher than the dude yesterday with more strikeout stuff and sorry about that. Less likely to get beat up. Jose Berrios is risky, but at 7-9, I don't mind. I think that risk is kind of built into his price. I do think he's plays with a lead in line for the win, and there's not a ton missing from this White Sox lineup, but I don't know. I don't think that they're gonna do too much to Berrios. Like, they obviously can. They're one of the better offensive lineups in baseball, but I just don't think they're gonna profile very well against him, that they don't profile very well against him. And I think he's at home where he does well. Minnesota desperately needs like a bounce back kind of start. So I don't mind Berrios at 7-9. Like, normally I'm not a big Berrios guy. He's like a cash game play for the most part. But at 7-9, there is upside. If he gets that 25, you'd be happy. And the White Sox can strike out. They do put up a lot of runs, hit a lot of home runs, but they also do strike out. So I don't mind him at 7-9. And that's it down to 7 that I've got my eye on.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's a lot of viable options. Hendricks is viable. The Pirates have been awful. I think there was someone else you said that I thought was interesting. But I also agree that, my favorites are Hauser and Berrios. I like both of them. Lindblom sucked ass yesterday. Couldn't throw a strike. That's what you walk on a team that doesn't walk. You just don't have it. Adrian Hauser has known to have some walk issues, and his strikeout upside isn't necessarily massive, but he's got a 61% ground ball rate. That's kind of his game, and he's playing the Tigers, so he's going to get handed some, strikeouts along the way. So as long as you don't walk dudes, you should be all right. So I like Hauser, and I love Berrios today. I'm not a huge Berrios guy either. I don't think we've played him once this whole season, but his price has come down to a point where it's just too low. He's playing a White Sox team that we definitely prefer against lefties. They are improved, and it's no easy feat by any means. But this game is in Minnesota, a little bit of a bigger park, better than if it was in Chicago. We know Berrios is better at home. And if you look at Berrios' numbers, they're not that different from where they've been the last couple seasons when he was pricing like 9K and above every single day. So I think he's due for some progression at some point. And the White Sox, as good as they are, they do strike out a ton against right-handed pitching. So I'm with you. I really like those two in the mid tier. Talk to me about the value guys.
Yep. Value. Tristan McKenzie. Didn't have that great of a start his second time out, but it wasn't horrible, and he's cheap, and he's already shown us in the short career that he does have a ceiling at 6'7". If he reverts back to the first start, you'll be thrilled. I think he'll be kind of popular. There's merit to attacking against or just kind of staying away. He's got a very good pitching umpire today, as I just saw posted.
Who were you just talking about?
Tristan McKenzie.
McKenzie, okay, yeah.
Joe Musgrove at 5'7", I think you could toy with if it helps you get Scherzer in like a really good lineup. It's his first start. I think since getting coronavirus, or maybe he was injured. He hasn't been around for a minute, but so I don't expect him to pitch that deep. But I think 75 pitches, the Cubs can strike out. Like if you got to 15, you'd be really happy. So unlikely he's in line for the win, but if it gets you Scherzer in the stack you want, I don't mind it, and then I also I do like the Twins bats. They're getting healthy. Donaldson's back. Yeah, they've seen this guy a ton. I think they kind of get it going against him. But Ronaldo really hasn't looked as bad pretty much from the end of last year and this year. He hasn't looked great this year either. Very rarely does he, go off, but he does also have a ceiling. Just like I said for Musgrove, I think Musgrove's less likely to get blown up, where Lopez at 5'7" could win you the slate if he goes for a 25, or he could lose you the slate if he goes for negative 25. But I think you could test him out. Minnesota has not been the same as last year offensively, although they are getting a little bit healthier now, so maybe that does turn around. We'll see. But if you're just the last guy into your lineup, you really like what you got, and it gets you Scherzer or Dinelson Lamet, then go for it. But I think I'd rather use Berrios or Hauser with Lamet if possible.
Yeah, I looked at those guys. Musgrove, I think, is kind of interesting. Interestingly enough, he's throwing a lot of fastballs to righties. He's throwing almost double the amount of fastballs to righties as he is to lefties. And as a result, righties this year have been tattooing him. He's never really been a major reverse splits guy, more of neutral. Last year it was slightly to lefties. But I don't know, for whatever reason, he's throwing a lot of fastballs to righties. The Cubs went out and threw an extra right-handed lineup. It's not the best lineup. So I think that's a very hot or cold spot. We'll talk about the Cubs when we get into the stacks, but I think Musgrove is on the table if you're not considering the Cubs. But I think the main value play, and he'll be popular today, especially with those who play Scherzer on DraftKings, is the McKenzie kid. It looks good, right? Strikeout stuff looks good. Wasn't great in his last start, but this is a much softer matchup against Kansas City in a pitcher's park. You mentioned he's got a very pitcher-friendly umpire. So he'll be popular, but I'm hoping to pair him with the Berrios, Hauser, pair those two together. Those are the three pitchers that I plan on having the most exposure to throughout, and just hoping we get a little dirty with it. Let's get into the bats, Paulie. Talk to me about some of your favorite stacks.
All right, so I like both offenses in the Boston-Atlanta game. More so the Atlanta side, but I also have interest in the Boston. I don't know very much about this Mike Kickham guy, but really tough location and team to kind of be making. I think it's his first start. I think this is the guy who pitched 7 years ago and getting him a second chance at it in the league.
That is that guy, but Robinson Lair is going to start, so I don't know if the plan, if anything changed with him. I wasn't sure if he was going to be a long reliever. I really couldn't find anything. He was in the player pool beginning of the day, and then all of a sudden, as time went on, it switched to Robinson Lair. So I don't know if he's a long reliever or what the deal is, but Robinson Lair is the opener at least.
Mm-hmm. I really like the Padres tonight. Um, bats in that park, you want them from the left-hand side. You want lefties against Tehran. They just got a brand new shiny one in what's the dude from Boston?
Mitch
Mitch
Moorcock.
Moreland. You got Eric Hosmer. We don't have the lineup just yet. I don't. Actually, let me hit refresh. Yeah, not yet. Jason Castro's over there, Cronenworth, Grisham, and then you always want to mix in some Tatis and Machado. So I do like the Padres against Tehran, and then bullpen I don't have a ton of respect for. Who else? I do think that Tampa Bay and the Yankees are both kind of interesting. We saw back and forth, competitive game. Tampa Bay is in first. Yankees are chasing them. They're the two powerhouses in the East, I would say, or the AL. And at the end of the game, what's his name? The Yankees closer plunked the Tampa Bay guy. A lot of people thought it was intentional, and I think you're going to see another back and forth high scoring game because Morton's this is his first start back. They're not going to let him go deep, and then Montgomery's just blah, and the Yankees bullpen's beat up right now. It's not the usual. Tampa Bay's bullpen's excellent, but they're also they've got 9 key pitchers on the disabled list between starters and relievers right now. So, although they're performing well, they're down to their fourth and fifth string guys that normally wouldn't be pitching. So I think we see offensive eruption here, good hitting park. I like those, and I don't think they're going to be all that popular as well. I'm torn about going back to Houston or not. They really let me down yesterday, and usually that team doesn't just turn around and do the dirty the next day, but it's possible. Sometimes you just day I played the shit out of Marcell Ozuna 2 days ago, on almost every team. 2 out of 3 at least. And I don't play enough teams for it to be really that much, but you know what I'm saying. And then 2 days later he goes, at 9% owned. He goes for 50. 2 days ago I would have won me, the donkey. So sometimes, and then Cleveland, they've seen Junis a lot. He can be good, but he can also get lit up. And that KC bullpen is just atrocious. And, the Cleveland has put up runs in 3 of their last 5 games. If they get into his bullpen once again, I don't see why it wouldn't just kind of continue to go off. So I've got some interest there as well.
Yeah, I'll start with the Padres also. I think that they're in a phenomenal spot. Tehran's been terrible. You want the lefties, of course, but Tehran's just awful. And the Angels' bullpen is not much better. They've got the 6th highest xFIP in the league right now. So I do like the Padres a lot. They're my favorite offense. I think that going to the Cubs-Musgrove situation, I do think that the Cubs throwing all these righties out there could be beneficial if Musgrove continues. There could be a reason he's doing what he's doing and throwing the way he's throwing. And if that continues, that trend, I do like the Cubs offense. Not to mention there's actually 73-degree dew points out in Pittsburgh, which I think is kind of interesting. And one of the lower-owned offenses. I think the Yankees also, Paulie, yesterday they didn't do me as good. They didn't do me terribly. They didn't do me as good as I'd liked. But one thing about Charlie Morton, I know this is a different Yankees squad. It's not no Aaron Judge, no Stanton. But one thing about Morton is he's got a pretty good amount of history against the Yankees recently. He's done really well anytime he's at home. And that's because he's playing in Houston most of these times or he's playing in Tampa most of these times. Anytime he's gone to the Yankee Stadium, he's got his ass kicked. And him coming off of a fairly long layover, right? I don't think he's pitched in a month. And
yeah, and the guy that we had identified as way down in the velocity, and then he went to the DL right after that next start, so
right. Yep.
There was already signs that this ain't the best, and the Yanks are probably going to be crazy low owned today.
100% agree. There's been reverse line movement in favor of the Yankees and in favor of the over in that game, where the public bets on Tampa, the public also bets on the under. So I do like the Yankees as a potentially sneaky stack. I like Boston today. The Red Sox. I'm cool with Atlanta. I'm gonna have a little sprinkle of Atlanta, but they didn't make my top 5. Boston made it over them to me, because primarily Boston's bullpen's been pretty good. So I don't know much about these who they're pitching or what, but overall their bullpen. Even yesterday, they scored runs, but it was really like Ozuna and like a couple pieces did fine. But it wasn't like they broke the slate as a team. The Giants are the ones that obviously broke the slate as a team. It was just Ozuna who broke the slate himself. And I think that has something to do with Boston's bullpen, and that's why Boston's got no choice. They're throwing in all these guys. We've seen reverse line movement against Atlanta. Line opened up minus 160 down to minus 140. And they're going to go against Robbie Erlin, who's giving up multiple home runs per start. He's just getting destroyed. I think there was one start he didn't give up a home run. Other than that, he's given up like 2 or 3. He's been awful. On top of that, the Red Sox have actually, as bad as they've been overall, they've actually been pretty decent against lefties. Their WRC plus, I'm not going to say decent because the Red Sox, they're not the Red Sox that we're used to. That's not them anymore. But they do have a positive WRC plus. Their ISO is around 170, 175. It's not the worst. So if you were going to take the Red Sox at this point in the season, it does seem like it's beneficial to take them against lefties at the moment. JD Martinez, I like my name is Chavez, even though he's been disappointing. Bobby Dalbec hit a home run in his debut. He's 2,500. So there's a few different things that they can actually do for you to help you get what you want. And this, like Mitch Moreland, does not hurt them in this game, right? Like lefty on lefty, he wasn't going to play anyway. So I like the Sox. Last team I'll talk about is the Twins. I don't love it, but to Paulie's point, this slate wasn't like super. Everything stood out amazing. But I do think the Twins against Lopez, who is still on somewhat of a pitch count, has kind of struggled this season dealing with injury. He's going to see Max Kepler. Josh Donaldson's back in the lineup. The lineup just looks a little bit more healthy, with pretty good hitters going all the way down to number 6. Miguel Sano has been fucking hot as hell, by the way. He's just been on another planet right now. But yeah, I'll leave it at that. We'll answer some questions. And in the meantime, let's do some home runs. Who's going deep?
What am I say? You know who's gonna go deep today is DJ LeMahieu.
DJ, oh yeah, double dong yesterday. That was nice.
Yeah.
I'll go with Trent Grisham.
All right, I like that.
Cool.
I like that. I'll go Miguel Sano.
Oh yes, got me with that one. I'll go with JD Martinez.
Hey Dizzle, isn't he hurt? He's in the lineup.
Yeah, he's in the lineup.
Back. Okay.
He's there.
All right. Give me some. Oh, give me what's his name? Hunter Renfroe.
Hunter Renfroe. I could dig it. I like that one. And I will go with. I'm gonna go with Aaron Hicks. Let's go Aaron Hicks. He hasn't been great, but he's really cheap. And he's batting third.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Hicks style.
Yeah.
Let's get into some questions. MG says, I tell people routinely at work to go and do dirties. That's why MG's an OG.
Yep.
Tony A, how about the Tigers pitcher? Brewers don't do the dirty this season. Yeah, Paulie talked about him earlier. Obviously, you probably asked that question before we got to it. But Turnbull, I believe you're talking about. Why not? It's the Brewers. They're striking out a ton. I'm not really going to have a ton of them because I just like other guys more, and it's expensive kind of. But why not? The Brewers are striking out fucking left and right.
No, I think he's. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. No, I'm with it. I'm cool with Turnbull. I think he's talented.
Yeah,
so
I think he's talented.
You know.
Yeah, my issue with him was really price. He just didn't fit.
Little price. Yeah. You know.
Yeah, that was my issue. David Torrey says, bet on a big brawl and the Tiger Brewer game. Damn the COVID rule. Jacoby Jones payback. I didn't get all the
What does
full
that mean?
details in that. There was a little thing
Yeah.
there that with Jacoby Jones. I just didn't. I think he got hurt, but I didn't get the full story in that one. David Torrey, elaborate, my dude. Tony A says big brawl in Yanks game too. Definitely a possibility. Definitely a possibility. Tony A also says Tigers won 6 in a row. Look at these Tigers go. Look at them go. Gotta love the Tigers.
Yeah.
Alex
He's
Diaz
the
says he
Tigers.
likes the White Sox as a contrarian play. Barrios is going to be popular. Yeah, I think Barrios will have some ownership. I still think that McKenzie is going to be the highest owned pitcher overall because people that play Scherzer will use him. People that use Barrios will use him. People that use anybody will use him. So I think I could provide
And
some leverage.
to that point, like I do think a Royals leverage stack makes some sense.
Yeah.
Even if it's just like a 3-man for, salary relief to fit in what you want.
Right.
But this kid, Ryan McBroom, I can't imagine he's more than like 3K. And like he hasn't started much, but every time he pinch hits, he gets a hit or a homer lately.
He's 2,100.
Yeah, right. Hunter Dozier's been awesome since coming back. Homers, steals bases. Jorge Soler can go deep against anybody. So same with Whit Merrifield. Adalberto Mondesi, I don't know what's happened to this guy, but if he gets on base, he can steal some bags. Like I do think there's some merit to grabbing some Royals for leverage, just like we talked about grabbing the Tigers yesterday for leverage. Like this rookie. Like, yeah, he struck out a bunch of Tigers his first start, but he didn't look all that dominant the second one, and he's on the road. I don't mind it, especially like not as a 5-man, but as a 3-man.
Yeah, at some point the Royals are gonna win somebody a slate. There's gonna be a slate where it's like you get 2 stud pitchers, like fucking Bieber and DeGrom or some combination like that, and the Royals are gonna win somebody all the money because they're continuously ridiculously cheap.
They did it for me already. Yeah, they've done it for me this year already.
Oh, of course, but it's gonna happen again because when it happens whenever their prices fall this low, like it starts getting like it'll be like this for a few days, and people chase it and miss, and they'll bail away. But Adalberto Mondesi, you say what happened to him? What the fuck happened to him? Like this guy was amazing last year, and he's just been horrendous this year. But at some point, you expect him to at least have a fucking streak where he goes,
Yeah.
Tony A says Roth is saying this should be a late start in Pittsburgh, so I think it should be fine after that, but look out for a late start in Pittsburgh. Jeff, my boy Jeff, no love for my Indians against CK. Come on, man. Good stuff as always. Appreciate you, Jeff. Talk to me about the Indians against Jake Junis.
I told you, I mean, it's not even so much the Junis, it's how bad the Royals bullpen has been. I mean, it's just they get crushed, The Indians, I don't know, they scored 6 runs against the bullpen yesterday. Like, they're hot as a team. They've had to put up double-digit runs in 3 of their last 6. And their lineup's deep. Franmil the GOAT almost hit for the cycle yesterday. I think he hit, like, 2 doubles, a single, and a homer. And a bunch of RBIs. Lindor homered yesterday. J-Ram homered. They steal bases when they get on. Like, I don't love, like, the bottom of the order. I don't mind Roberto Perez, but Josh Naylor and the lineup, the Shields, I could do without, which is fine because we don't have to play all 9 guys. But I'm cool with the Indians. I think that they fall behind the Yankees and the Padres for me. You know what I mean? They're kind of like there with Minnesota and like my secondary level of teams I like. But if I was building more than 3 teams, like if I was building 20, I would certainly have at least 20% exposure to them.
Yeah, I think that's more than fair. Let's see. Lindor, BVP, damn good. Perez, a good catcher. Play on DraftKings. Yeah, I think the Indians are definitely. It's like a couple of you guys like the Indians. I think the Indians are definitely viable. But at the end of the day, when I rank them in terms of stacks, they still have a really good pitching ump in that park. They still have the biggest park out there. So I think that they're fine. This wasn't a team that made my top 5, but I think they're fine. I don't think Jake Junis is anything special. I agree with Paulie. The bullpen's bad. There is one guy in the bullpen who I hate when he comes in. It's that Stalmont dude. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but this guy just has a shit ton of movement, and it's not even that I think he's like he's got walk issues, but it's like it's very hard to get a home run off that dude. It's either swing and miss or walk. It seems to be the consistencies, but regardless, any of that irrelevant. The rest of the bullpen is god awful. So I'm fine with the Indians. I got no issues. Wouldn't talk anybody off. That's gonna do it, Nation. We're gonna get up out of here. Don't see any other questions. Appreciate those of you. Pretty good turnout today. Appreciate those of you hanging out with us. Please hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Do me a favor and go tell someone that you like, not somebody you don't like, but somebody you like that plays DFS about the Wise Take Nation. It's all about spreading kindness. You know,
it's coming.
It's coming. It's coming. NFL, by the way, NFL. We have our first NFL show tomorrow night. Myself, Paulie D, Patio Joe, a little NFL preview action. It's not going to be about week 1, just going to be general NFL talk, maybe some season-long talk just to get in preparation for the DFS season. So don't miss that. It'll be tomorrow night, probably around 11:30 p.m. Eastern, because Patio Joe's on the West Coast, and he wants to ruin everybody's life. So that is what we will be doing on the East Coast. Shout out to Joey. It'll be fun talking to him, catching up. Paulie, anything in closing before we get out of here?
No. That's it. You know what to do, Nation.
For Paulie D, for myself, the entire White Stick Nation, as always, good luck.
Yeah.